I love to tell people the measure of our grief is the measure of how much we love someone. And the gift in grief is that it helps to clarify what really matters. And it teaches us where and what true love is.
Welcome back to Mama Mabel's Caregivers podcast, where we hold space for the honest, sacred conversations that caregivers need most. Today's episode is titled The Gifts of Grief: What Caregivers Need to Hear Right Now. We are honored to be joined by Rev Lee Atherton, known to many as Coach Rev. Lee is a certified end-of-life grief support and resilience coach who has dedicated her life to walking alongside individuals and families through some of life's most tender moments. Her work centers on helping people through their end of life journey by discovering meaningful, beautiful connections, even in the final chapters of life. Lee also supports caregivers and professionals who regularly encounter loss, trauma, and grief, guiding them through what she calls the white waters of grief. That is until they find a place of stillness, peace, and renewed strength. What makes Coach Rev's work so powerful is her unwavering commitment to meeting people exactly where they are, with compassion, empathy, and a deep respect for every individual journey. Let's get into it. Welcome, Lee Atherton. How are you today?
Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening to your listeners. I am doing fabulous. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on as a guest on Mama Mabel's Caregivers podcast. I'm incredibly grateful to have you on today.
Oh, and I'm honored.
Podcast family, you know what I always say, this is going to be a dynamic conversation, but again, this is truly going to be a dynamic conversation. With me on today is Miss Lee Atherton. She is the end of life and grief expert that specializes in that area and also specializes in pet grief. I'm going to go over the title of this episode with you all. The title is The Gifts of Grief: What Caregivers Need to Hear Right Now. So with that said, let's get right on into it. Lee, please tell me about yourself.
Thank you. Talisa, I can imagine that many of your listenings are saying the gift of grief? Seriously? But yeah, we'll get into that. There are gifts in the journey of grief for sure. I am Lee Atherton, and I've been in the world of end of life and grief since the early 2000s. Interestingly, a colleague of mine for several years before that had been saying, "You should be a hospice chaplain. You'd be really great." And I kept saying, "I think you're crazy. There's no way on God's good earth I'm going to do that." But then came a time she needed someone to cover an extended vacation, and I wasn't working. And as they say, the rest is history. I met people in the hospice world, patients and their families, and it was life changing. So for many years, I did work in hospice, but I do the same thing as a hospice chaplain and a bereavement coordinator under the umbrella of Coach Rev at the Crossroads, where I can do it, where I can support people, their families in ways that are more authentic to me and not catering to the rules and guidelines of others who don't care about the person as much as they care about the bottom line. I love doing this work.
That is beautiful. Podcast family, before we began recording, I was just talking with Lee and sharing with her that I had been in deep thought, meditation, and prayer about this topic because going through the experience I had as a caregiver, thought about some of the things that were needed. And during my journey of being a caregiver, taking care of my mother who had a terminal illness, a breast cancer, stage 4, there were things that I wish that I had, and wish that I had knowledge of, and being able to consult, being able to even know that this even existed, and being able to consult with an expert on the end of life and in grieving is something that I felt would have been incredibly beneficial, not just for myself, but also for my mother, who was going through it at the time, because she was only 60 years old when she passed away. She was diagnosed right before her 60th birthday. So she was diagnosed in November. Her birthday, her 60th birthday, was in January. So that whole having to wrap her mind around it herself was very challenging.
And there's a lot of grief that happens before someone dies.
Yeah.
Think of all that your mom had to grieve, knowing that she was going to be gone at just 60 years old.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And there was grief that I was going through, but I didn't know that it was even called grief. All I knew is that life was lifing and everything was happening fast. And I was doing my best to just keep my head above water and take care of as much as I could. So having Lee on here for us to dive deep into this, it really means a lot to me. And I know
Mm.
that this episode will also help others in your caregiving journey. So, Lee, let's talk about some of your experience and some of the practices that you employ.
Yeah, as you were talking, I was just thinking about my parents and their end of life journey. My mom died before I had any experience in the end of life world. And my dad died 30 years later after I had been doing this for a long time. And the difference in those two experiences of knowing what was going on with, as you said, you don't know to call it grief as you're going through it. Knowing that with my dad made the journey so different, so different in helping to have conversations, in understanding what he was experiencing, what all the rest of the family was experiencing, just made it so different. One of the stories I like to share with people to tell a little bit about what is end of life coaching, what impact can you make? And this is a story that is an impact for the person who was nearing end of life, but also indirectly his two children. So this was a young man, he was in his 40s. Christmas of that year, he had a fabulous Christmas. By New Year's Day, he had gone into the hospital for back pain and was diagnosed with stage 4 bone cancer. It was talk about sudden. So he came out of the hospital onto hospice services, went into a nursing home, and that was when I met him. And my first visit, we got to know each other quite a bit. I got to know some of the things he was interested in life. But he also really opened up and he shared with me that he had two young adult children. One was 19 and one was 20, with whom he hadn't had contact in years, a very bitter divorce. And one of his wishes, he actually had three wishes, that if he could accomplish these things before he died, he would feel that life was complete. One was to reconnect with his children. One was to go fishing again, because that was what he loved to do. And one was to meet his favorite author, who was an author since he was a child. So we did, a week before he died, we did take him out on that last fishing trip. We managed to get an ambulance ride and the whole 9 yards. I was able to connect with that author who was actually coming to visit his parents, who, what a small world, lived in the same town. So he did get to meet his favorite author. But to Lisa, the best part of it was we were able to find his children. And I reached out to them and I mediated. I brought the three of them into a room and I helped them have conversations. It was a long conversation. By the end of the several hours, the three of them were able to say to each other, I forgive you and I love you. And this young man, a 40-year-old, didn't die in a nursing home. He died in his daughter's home. She said, I love you, Dad. I want you to come live with me. So that's some of what end of life coaching is, right? And that was a big one. But some of the little stuff, it's what does it mean to be a caregiver to someone that we love? How do we take care of ourselves? It's not easy, especially when you're doing it 24/7, but how do you make sure? Right? And maybe part of that is for some people starting from the very beginning, I don't know how to take care of myself. What are the things that are important to me? A lot of it is having the conversations with your loved one that you might not have otherwise. And the gift in grief. I love to tell people that the measure of our grief is the measure of how much we love someone. And the gift in grief is that it helps to clarify what really matters. And it teaches us where and what true love is. And that's not just true love of your beloved spouse, but true love of anyone in your life. And taking the time to honor our loved ones. Again, whether that's before they die or afterwards. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So you come in and sounds like you talk with the individuals to learn more about them, and then depending upon what they say is how you go about planning a roadmap.
Absolutely. Every person is unique. And one of the things that's crucially important for me in the work I do is to honor and celebrate that uniqueness. I never do anything cookie cutter.
That's good to know because without knowledge of this, I'm sure one can assume that, oh, you just come in and there's a specific way that you go about it. You tell them ABC 1, 2, 3, and that's what it is for every person.
Yeah, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Can you share with us some of the experiences that you may have had that was challenging, either for you and or for your clients that you were working with?
Yes, someone comes right to mind when I hear challenging. So, to back up a little bit, I believe strongly that we should not shield our children from end of life, from death, and from grief. None of us can avoid death. When we help it be more normal for our kids, and it's different depending on their age level, right? They are going to navigate their own end of life journey, whether it's them as a caregiver with a parent or a loved one, or their own end of life. I had a client, she had just turned 90 when I met her. And this woman, gosh, she was a strong woman, strong willed and strong physically. I loved her story of telling me that she rode her horse. She was in boarding school in New Hampshire, and she rode her horse home on the weekends to Boston. Right? Yeah. Her family called me in because several times, and she was on hospice several times, the hospice team said she's not doing well, she's nearing the end, and somehow she would rally. And they thought she was afraid. So they called me in to be able to talk with her, and turns out that she was terrified of death. Her dad died when she was 7 years old, and the entire thing was hidden from her. And she lived her whole life feeling like, if no one could talk to me about why my daddy's not here anymore, then it must be such a horrible thing. And that's one of the experiences that helps me say that we shouldn't hide our children from any of this. But I worked with Romy. Her name was Rosemary, nickname Romy, for actually 3 years. And we really dug into exploring this fear that she had all her life. So I was working with 80 some odd years of deep fear and even terror till we got to the place that she was able to let go, knowing that she would be held safely and her family would be okay when she finally died.
So when Rumi, when she got to the point where she said, let's talk about it, what was the
Yeah,
aha moment for her? How did you know that? How did she and how did you know that she was ready?
that aha moment. I think came from a time, and it still needed more work after this, but she was very close to her grandfather, and he was a mentor in her life. And I asked her the question at one point, if he were sitting here with you right now, what would he say to you? And she had a great way of deflecting the questions and going on to a different topic. But one day she sat in the hardness of that question and imagined him sitting with her. And she said, you know what, Lee? I bet he'd probably say, don't worry about it, let go, and come be here with me. And it was an interesting thing for her to say. And I could see that she became lighter. He was one of the most important people in her life. And when she heard that, she could let it soak in a little bit more. And I'd say it was, I want to say it was 2 to 3 months after that she did die. Peacefully surrounded by her family, hearing the music that she wanted.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes. The work that you do, is it sometimes emotionally draining for you? We're talking about in the life, which involves so many different emotions.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
how has your experience been? And with that portion, and how do you continue to pull yourself through?
Yeah. And so part of my journey with end of life is helping people plan their funeral. And then hopefully, if I am able to officiate whatever type of service they have afterwards, it's when I can make it something different than what it otherwise might have been. So those couple of stories I told you, both of those were hard. They made me weary. But looking at what I was able to do for both of them and their families, that also fills my when I can take a difficult situation for a funeral and help bring a family to where they can find, even if it's just a smidgen of a laughter in that service, so that they can look back on it and know that they were able to smile in the midst of all their tears. That fills me again. But I am a huge advocate for self-care, and I can't tell everyone else take care of you if I'm not taking care of me. So I very actively make sure I take care of myself, and that's in a whole bunch of different ways. And I actually keep a list, right? And if I'm feeling overwhelmed or I'm feeling tired, I'll pull it out and say, which one of these today is going to help me feel good?
That's awesome. Can you share some of the self care that you do for yourself?
Oh, sure. Taking a nice bubble bath is one. I have two little grandchildren, so spending time with them when it's nice weather, just being out in my garden by myself with the quiet of nature. I've got a great app that I love to use. It's called Positive Prime, and it's one of the ways I describe it as a vision board on steroids. So think of a vision board where you've got all your favorite pictures, right? And I'm looking at that for 3 minutes with them just scrolling, which is lots of fun. Reading, being for me, being in the space of my faith and feeling that connection with my faith and what has helped me over the years. Those are some of them.
Okay, I love that you shared that. And one of the reasons why I asked you that question is because throughout the podcast episodes that Mama Mabel's caregivers have had, we're always talking about what we can do as suggestions for caregivers to just make sure that you're taking care of yourself, to give yourself some love and some time, and to love on you, because it's very important that you're able to fill your cup so that you can fill your loved ones up. Yes, thank you for sharing that with us. What are some general tips, advice, guidance that you can provide the caregivers that are taking care of a loved one with a terminal illness?
When it comes to grief in general, and whether that's before someone has died or afterwards, and no matter who it is that's grieving, let it happen. Let it happen. Too often we try to stuff it, or the people around us. Gosh, I had a mom who lost a child who it was less than a week later when her boss said, "You must be over it by now. It's time to get back to work." Like, seriously? We never get over grief. It changes. Some days are hard, some days aren't so hard. But if you try to ignore it, if you try to stuff it, it's going to come back and bite you like a roaring tiger when you least expect it. So I encourage people, feel the feels, let it happen. It's okay to cry. We're made as human beings with eyes that leak for a reason. And if you are supporting someone who's grieving, and I think this is a piece that gets lost, is just, I call it the ministry of presence. Just be in someone's midst as they're grieving and let them cry on your shoulder, laugh, whatever they want to do. There's so much in grief. It's okay to laugh. It's okay to have a good day. It's okay someday even to fall in love with someone else again, or fall in love with your next best pet friend, best friend pet.
What about as it pertains to the loved ones that the caregivers are taking care of with a terminal illness? What are some tips that you can share with them?
Yes, thank you. There's a thing called anticipatory grief. When my mom died, I had no clue what it was. And afterwards, I remember saying to someone, I must be the most horrible person on the world because I'm not crying. So, anticipatory grief is a lot of what we feel in grief happens before someone dies. So, be gentle with yourself. If you or the dying person's another loved one is feeling angry and it makes no sense, be gentle. If the tears are coming for no reason, and that happened when my dad was dying. He was telling me a funny story and I just started sobbing. It's normal. It's okay. And yeah, let it happen. I think huge is be gentle with yourself and be gentle with those around you.
That's awesome. For the actual people who may have the terminal illness, what would you say for them?
Yeah. Take a deep breath, as I just did. There's so much in there. When we are a caregiver, we're grieving one person who's leaving our life, but that person with the terminal illness, they are grieving everyone, and their journey is much, much different than ours. Lots of similarities, obviously, and there's often some measure of fear, the fear of the unknown. I think all of us experience that. Finding someone trusted to talk to. And I encourage people to find someone who's outside their family and friends, because we're always trying to protect our family and our friends. And we find it difficult to be truly open and honest. And that's one of the areas where an end of life coach could come in, or your spiritual mentor, whether that's a priest or a pastor or a rabbi, whatever your faith tradition might be. But having someone outside come in who can sit with you and hold a non judgmental space where you can be and say whatever comes to mind.
And within this could also mean and or include a therapist, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
So would you say it's helpful to, at that stage of the journey, for perhaps both to incorporate that?
Yes. I would say not mostly. Yes, for both. I see the need being a little bit stronger with the person who's dying because their world at that point is filled with family and friends. Whereas a caregiver can go outside that space and talk to someone who's distanced from it. So a caregiver might more easily, or in addition, be able to talk to a friend who's not right in the midst of it.
That's really good information. Thank you for sharing that with
You're
us.
welcome.
Are there many people like you?
There are becoming more and more, but not enough. It's an ununderstood, is there such a word? Field of ministry. And I use the term ministry because it's not work. Work you have to do. Ministry is something that fills your heart. And I don't say ministry from like an ordained minister, but all of us can do it. Yeah, there's not enough. And people don't know that we're out here.
That's very true because I didn't know. And like I said, if I had have known, I definitely would have incorporated it because it was needed. So understanding now that you exist, the work that you do exists, and there are others out there that could help as it pertains to this specific part of being a caregiver for some undergoing a terminal illness and being a caregiver of a loved one that has a terminal illness. This is very powerful.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So let's talk about pet grief.
Yeah. Folks, Talisa was just sharing with me before we hopped on live about her dog that she had. And I've had pets all my life. And people don't take pet grief seriously. For those who have pets, we know that they are a part of our family. And grieving our pet is real. So I hold support groups for pet grievers where we can just come in and share our stories. Pet grief is honor that as well. Be kind to yourself in the midst of that as well because it's real. Don't let people tell you that, oh, that's ridiculous. Right?
Oh, absolutely. I lost my Chiquito, and everybody knew him who knew me. His name was Chiquito, and he was my first dog. He was a miniature schnauzer. I got him as a young professional and constantly moving, being promoted and relocated, promoted, relocated, moving to different states, etc. He was my buddy. I had him trained in Spanish and English. He could understand like Spanish commands. That was my buddy. I still don't understand how this happened because he developed lung cancer towards the end. And I was trying to, of course, fix things. I wasn't able to fix it. I don't even understand how he obtained that. I just knew that I was doing research. I said, okay, I'm not a smoker. Okay, he doesn't live in a stress environment. Like he had a few different beds throughout my house. All of them were Tempur-Pedic dog beds at that. He had a life of luxury, but it was his time. And what made it even more difficult is he passed during COVID. So when he went in for his diagnosis, I wasn't able to be in there with him. I was sitting in my car when the doctor told me because he couldn't breathe. He was having a hard time breathing. The vet, she called me. I'm sitting in the car and she says, I hate that I have to communicate this to you in this way. She said, he has lung cancer and it has metastasized and there's nothing that we could do. Oh my God.
Oh,
Yes, I understand. They even had a special way of taking care of that when I had to put him down. because it was COVID,
Mhm.
so I had to go through the back door. We had to be separated. It was an experience. So after, even before that, I understood what it was to have a pet. They become like a part of your family. So I was always that person, and my customers can even attest to this. If I found out that they had a pet and their pet died, I'd go and I'd get them a card, I'd get them a cupcake from the bakery,
Beautiful.
just to honor the fact that they loved this pet. It was a part of their lives, and the pet
Yeah.
mattered. And that's something that I actually continue to do, including with people in my neighborhood. And some of my neighbors, when they lose their pet, I stop by and get them a card and some chocolates and a hug. Chocolates always make me feel better.
Yeah, they'd make me feel better.
Yes, yes. So,
Beautiful that you do that.
yeah, thank you. So, as I think about that, we don't shine a light on that enough. So, that's great that you offer that. How can the listeners, if they're interested or need some advice or would like to reach out to you, how can they go about doing that?
They can reach out to me anytime. So my phone number and my email, will you share that or should I give it now?
Podcast family, you know how I do. All of the information that Ms. Lee Atherton shares will be in the description of this episode. So you will be able to easily find her information there. But during our podcast, I always love it for our guests to share that information as well.
Thank you. Thanks. Yep. So my website is coachrev.com and it's coach like a life coach, Rev short for reverend, but no, that's not what comes through to my clients because I meet you where you are. Email is lee@coachrev.com and I'm happy to share my phone number as well, which is 508 308 7116. Reach out with any questions, whether it's a question for yourself or someone that you know or love. I'm here for you all.
That is so beautiful. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Podcast family. It's such an honor, like I said, and to have Miss Lee Atherton on and for just her spirit, for her sharing this knowledge, and also being able to serve as a resource for anyone that's listening to this podcast that may need to reach out to her or may have questions as it pertains to this specific topic and the journey that you're going through during your caregiving experience. This is like gold. It's like a pot of gold. And so I'm very grateful for that. Thank you. Can you repeat that information one more time so the podcast family has it?
Yes, the website is coachrev.com. lee@coachrev.com is my email. And my phone number is 508 308 7116. And can I leave your listeners with a message?
Yes, please, please.
Folks, you are doing amazing things. Being a caregiver for someone that you love is, I think, one of life's most challenging things. So thank you for what you're doing. And be kind to yourself, be gentle to yourself, and know that in my heart, my prayer, my wish for you is that our great creator surround you in gentleness, in courage, in strength, and in peace and grace in all that you do. Thank you again.
Ooh, I felt that. I felt that in my heart. Thank you, Lee Atherton. Podcast family, on that note, thank you all for joining us again. Until next time.